Hello again. In this video I'd like to look at using different mindsets for different types of solutions and also to look at a different way of thinking about meetings in order to make them a lot more effective. So let's start with what I call deep thought solutions, and the whole idea of having a different mindset for different types of solution. So when we do that, what we tend to think of is short-term solutions, the think, decision, action we talked about in the last video. Don't require generally discussion, we just get on with it. Sometimes you might have a short discussion with somebody and then a decision is made and it's all very quick and it's fast. And those are what I call solutions A, quite simple, day-to-day type of solution, and we just get on with it. It's efficient, it's quick, and not a huge amount of deep thought is required. Type B solutions, however, need a little bit more thinking, a little bit more depth, maybe some discussion, and sometimes, and we're not as managers always as good as we should be at this, is self-reflection time. And obviously if there's more than you, if there are other people involved, how much time do they have to self-reflect before moving to sensible decisions which are sustainable for the team and for the business. So those I think we can generally do pretty well, but we might want to think again about how, particularly those type B solutions, how we do that, whether we really honour the differences in the way people think. Some people of course want lots of information, other people just want bullet points. Some people need time to reflect, other people are very, very quick to make decisions and wonder why other people are so annoyingly slow or indecisive. And often the indecisive people actually are bringing in a depth of thought and self-reflection, if we let them, that can be particularly useful in not tripping up over something where we've come to a decision far too quickly. So to honour all of those people. The third set is what I call the type C solution, or the deep thought solution, where we very rarely, most of us tend to go to. And that's a shame, because sometimes we do need to make very deeply thought, carefully worked out solutions where we need to maybe re-steer the business. We may need to think again completely about what our products do and what they're for, or what market they're in, what services we're providing and who we're providing them to, and how we achieve that, whether it's direct or indirect, whether it's franchise, whether it's not. A whole lot of business issues around quite deep problems and challenges for our organisations. So how do we do that? Now, in the old days, people used to brainstorm, and to some extent the deep thought type solutions, the type C solutions, can use some of that brainstorming sort of philosophy. What we're trying to do with brainstorming is to pile out lots of information as quickly as possible so we don't have time to judge it. Now that's the key thing that we want to bring to type C solution, the deep thought solutions, is to hold on to that thought. And it doesn't have to be rapid, it doesn't have to be quick necessarily, and we can take time over it. But what we're doing is to say, well, wait a minute, what was the point of all that? And the point is to suspend judgment. Because if you think about it, you start going down that thought curve, and if you suddenly start making judgments about things, particularly negative judgments about things, you skip off the curve and you end up in type B solutions, when in fact what you're looking for is more creativity. Now the other aspect about deep thought is, and I've alluded to this earlier, is that quite a lot of people do need to do some self-reflection in order to get creative solutions. And this is why this methodology is very different from the old brainstorming, because there wasn't the scope for that. It was all very bang, 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 get it on the board and then do the SWOT analysis afterwards on the solutions. In this case, what we're doing is to do the deep thought, is to get creative solutions, but to take periods of time out, usually on our own, usually in silence, coffee breaks, but we set up the scene so people know what these spaces are for. Taking 10 minutes out, maybe 15 minutes out, maybe longer, coming back into the space again, and then kicking off again in that deep sea type process without the judgments in. That then allows the people who create in their self-reflective processes novel and creative solutions to come in and share in the process, and to offer other solutions which we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And we need to harness that. Now, there is another issue here. If you happen to be someone who should be part of that process as a manager and leader, if you're managing the process, it's difficult to suspend judgment, because some of your mind is going to be concerned with actually running the process. So I would say, and I'm not saying come and buy us or buy any other organisation externally, use someone internally who can understand the process, facilitating groups of people to do things in a productive way like this, that can do that process and allow you, the manager stroke leader, just to be another participant in that arena, only thinking, only creating, without having to actually manage the process yourself, so that the best things that you can offer are also there and part of the process too. Now, I wanted to also talk about what I call agenda frames. This is a whole process of thinking about meetings in a different way, again requiring different mindsets. So we talked about the sort of mindsets required for different levels of solution, and now we're thinking about what do we need to get from meetings. Now, the agenda frames, I don't set them in stone, but we will get some examples for you on the screen and also on the website. But what we're trying to think of is, what are the meetings for? You know, they're having people just coming in with an agenda and sitting down for an unstructured day, or even structured day, may not be appropriate to all meetings all the time. And I have a particular dislike of meetings which don't have start and finish times that you keep to. You know, having target times for meeting length. Because one of the things we all know, I think, or should know, is that if we set a particular period of time for a conclusion of business, it tends to happen in that time frame. Whether it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or 3 hours, or 3.5 hours, we still manage to get that done. It's very rare that we would change or shorten a meeting length and not get to the solution. We just manage things slightly differently, provided it's all open and overt and everyone has bought into that. And I've proven this in my own work. Some years ago I started running meetings totally contrary to the organisation, which was open-ended meetings, usually of 2.5, 3.5 hours, always starting on the hour, and I started my meeting at the 1:45 or the 1:15, and then later moved on to the 10 past and 10 twos and 20 past and 22 meetings with budgets of 20 minutes or 35 minutes or whatever it was, so that people would arrive on time, get into the business, we'd know what the time frame was, and by the time I left about 3 and a bit years later, not everybody, and quite a lot of managers were running their meetings on very much the same basis. We need to concentrate the minds of people. And that does mean that you have to be there. I mean, I can think of one chief exec who's now been sacked, who, amongst a number of awkward and difficult traits he had as a leader, in spite of all his skills and ability, used to arrive at meetings very late. Meetings never had finishing times, so that, and a very sales organisation, he was a salesperson, a whole bunch of the most senior salespeople in the business would be all in a large room, and people trying to get hold of them, customers trying to get hold of them, and people in the office not being able to say to customers and stakeholders, oh, such and such, yes, they're due out at 10:15, or they're due out at 10:30, I'll give you a call shortly after that. Couldn't do it. So this individual, apart from anything else, was always late for meetings. Not good. So one of the things that is important, if you're going to have meetings, agenda frames as I call them, then just make sure you're there in time as well. Show the commitment. So what are agenda frames and why have them different? Well, it does relate, as I say, to those mindsets for the different types of solution. Some meetings just is a sharing. It's a simple sharing of information. A lot of that, of course, is done electronically these days. Sometimes we do want to have the minimal amount of discussion, but just to make sure we're on the same page, just to touch the flesh, make contact with people, check that everyone's on board, got the motivation, concentrated and focused. And those meetings might be very short, might be 15 or 20 minutes, and I call those show and tell. So there's a mainly sharing about where you've got to, very quick and it's brief, and then you all move off again. Another type of agenda frame, which I call performance and priorities, tend to be a bit longer. Performance and priorities might be for something like a sales strategy meeting. So you've got a strategy which is already rolling out, you want to touch base, see where you're going, you might want to modify and change some of the marketing arrangements, some of the propositions, some of the upsells or downsells, you might want to think about those and structure those things, so you may need some input and discussion. But it's done from experience and knowledge, it doesn't require the deep type C solutions that we talked about earlier. It's all done from knowledge and ability and experience of the people involved in the meeting. So that's performance and priorities. And those meetings, as I say, might be a little longer, 30, 35, 40, 45 minutes or more. Then I would have got another level, which I call, and again, I'm not saying you should have these in this way, you may have different terms for them and different needs in your organisation for maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different types of meetings. The next one is participate and develop. And the type of participate and develop agenda frames tend to be a bit longer. We're looking for much more input, we're looking for dialogue, we're looking for more expansive sort of discussions, but probably we're in the solution B type arena at this stage. So we know we can go through the business, we're using a lot of skills and experience, we might be looking for a bit of innovation here and there, some thoughts, some dragging in, maybe pausing and maybe another meeting, and a week later when people have done some research they'll come back and so forth to move things on. The last one is what I call blue sky, and this relates absolutely to that type C solution, the deep thought solutions here. It's the sort of what next, what are we doing next type meeting. And this probably isn't one meeting, it's probably several meetings, but we will for sure look to get that external facilitator, whether it's from another division or whatever it is, in to manage that. And we'll be looking to leave the spaces for self-reflection as a structure so that people all know that they're going to have breaks of 10 or 15 minutes for quiet reflection to come back and then move the meeting on. Maybe having gaps of time. I know it's very difficult sometimes if you've got people coming from a number of countries flying into a particular city for a particular meeting, you've got 30, 40 people in a room, you may not be able to manage that on an ongoing basis, but at least with webinars and so forth, it's possible to use technology to move things on, even though we can't get together. But the important thing is the self-reflective space, that we're leaving enough time for people to mix and engage together as well, before, during and after, and that we have these structured gaps for self-reflection. So that's agenda frames in a nutshell. And all of the thinking from today's video comes from self-coaching leadership